Welcome to the Malachi's Message Foundation and its Toxic Mold Sucks stories, where we want people to know that toxic mold is a real danger and threat to not only your health, but your home, your finances, and your relationships. We want to raise awareness about toxic mold by showing you the real damage it does to the people, families, and children it affects, and the process they go through after being impacted by mold in order to regain their health, their home, and their lives back.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I am Elizabeth Cripe, the Executive Director and co-founder of Malachi's Message. Co-hosting this video is Emily Rochelle. She's also the co-founder of Malachi's Message and the board chair. And today we have the privilege of hearing from Victoria Fisher. She's a personal trainer and turned into a mold advocate. So we are very excited to hear her and her story's family today. Victoria, thank you so much for doing this with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Victoria, before you moved into obviously this toxic environment that kind of changed your life, can you share with us a little bit about what your life looked like before you moved into a toxic environment?
Yeah, so before moving in, I remember being extremely energetic, very active, very bubbly, and honestly just had a very steady level mind, if that makes any sense. I didn't really have anxiety or depression or anything like that. And of course, that all changed when I moved into a moldy environment, unbeknownst to me and my husband. So, yeah, it was very, very different. And I just remember feeling not like myself in any way, shape, or form.
Would you mind on that note then just sharing with everybody a little bit about your mold story, where it started and kind of how it progressed as it went on?
Sure. So, I got married in 2015, and my husband and I moved into our first apartment. And I remember this is kind of a crucial part of the story, but I was on birth control and I had the implant, the Nexplanon on. And my symptoms kind of started there. So I thought maybe it was the birth control. And I had that removed 2 years later because I started feeling like I was going crazy pretty much and starting to get depressed and a little lethargic. I started noticing hair falling out. And so I got that removed and I thought, okay, this is going to make everything so much better. And it didn't. It did for a little bit, but there wasn't much change. Where 3 years into this, right, living in the apartment, I've had my implant removed for 3 years now, no change. Like a year later, there's no change. And so the symptoms start progressing more. There's more lethargy, there's more depression, anxiety. The hair starts falling out more, my skin starts changing texture. And honestly, there would be moments where, as the years progressed, that the exhaustion very debilitating. And I would just kind of go, how could I have gone from someone who could work out and feel super bubbly to this kind of feeling like a blob and just feeling kind of useless? And that's kind of where I started to raise my eyebrows. And at that point, I was like, my hormones should be in balance by now. There's no way that this was just the birth control. So yeah, that was kind of where it started, was starting to dig a little bit more. And I really started digging in the beginning of 2020. That's when I had a lot of the doors open up to me, where there was more of an access to what I knew to look up, or honestly, things would just fall in my lap, and it was kind of a godsend.
After you moved out of mold, how has mold kind of changed your life? Like what does your life look like now post mold?
Yeah, so post mold, there is so much more of an awareness, and I think compassion for people. And I desire so much for people to open a dialogue with understanding mold on a much deeper level. There's too much, what's the, like, not complacency, it's not the word I'm looking for, but there's too much of this like notion that mold is only bad when it's black mold. And that is not anything that I was subjected to at all, me or my husband. And so now it's just kind of like, okay, hey, if you're not feeling like yourself and you've tried all of these things under the sun, have you not considered that maybe mold could be a problem? And so with that, there's just this like passion, and I'm sure for y'all too, because you have Malachi's message, right? Of wanting to share how terrible it really can make people's lives. Um, I just remember, like, I have a little story, but when I lived in the apartment and I brought it to the attention of the apartment complex, I had blood work to prove that I had mold in my system. And the maintenance manager guy asked me if I drew my own blood and that I was making this up in my head, that, mold is just an allergy. And I looked at him like, why is there this continuous gaslighting? So even with that, it's just kind of like with you guys, I just want to spread the message. I really do.
So, how did you feel when you found out it was mold after doing your research and searching and the years of just going through it? What were your emotions at the time? Because that's a big deal for people too going through this.
Yeah, so a lot of people thought I was crazy, and my poor husband living with me. But the way I felt was complete relief and a little bit of shock too, that I was able to lean into that intuition and keep pursuing regardless of the gaslighting, regardless of the failed doctor's visits. And just there was a little part of me that wanted to go, I knew it, but I didn't do that. So it was very liberating in a sense of, okay, so this is what's been wrecking my life for the past 5 years, right? Because 5 years is a long time to live in a situation like that and be just not yourself. And yeah, it was just kind of this like, oh my gosh, like I figured it out. It was both shock and joy at the same time.
Before I ask this kind of last question, have you, like, when you moved out of the environment, did your symptoms start to get better? Like, are you back to kind of healthy today?
Yeah, I would say I am. We've been out of there for over a year now. And I think I've come quite a long ways, but of course there's that whole, well, you were in it for 5 years. So there are still little things that I'm working on, and just really discovering the depths of what mold can do, and really how it can wreck your health, especially the hormone health. On top of the birth control, for me, there is still a little bit of work that's needing to be done, but day by day as I work on it, I'm doing a million times better. I have more energy. I have healthy, strong hair again. My skin is much better. And so, yeah, all around, I would say fantastic. But I do want to say like one more thing, and it's kind of, I think, was a pivotal point for me in my story, of finding that it was mold, is that if there is any suspicion that anybody has out there that maybe they have this mold potentially, what I did was I bought myself a moisture meter from Home Depot, and they're very affordable. And I remember going to what I thought was the culprit, which was our shower, and finding extremely high levels of moisture back there. And so, it's just like my encouragement is to have everybody put on their investigative hats and just go on this journey to find answers, because unfortunately, chances are you probably won't find it in the doctor's office unless you demand a blood test or a urine test for mycotoxins. But anyway, doing much better now.
If you just said some really important stuff, that doing your own investigative work is crucial, and the gaslighting that you mentioned, of course, which is unfortunately keeps a lot of people sick because of that. Is there, if there's one other thing that you would want people to know about mold, what would it be?
Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question because it's hard for me to choose one. But I think the most important thing is to understand that mold is more than just allergies. It doesn't have to be just black mold. And that, you know, if you have this gut feeling then that something isn't right and you're not getting your answers via lab work because you're normal on paper, right? Take it upon yourself to put that investigative hat on, do your own research, because that's honestly going to go such a long way for you. But also just mute the gaslighting. I think that's the biggest thing, is making the doctors go to the side, family members go to the side, and focusing on your healing journey, because no one is feeling what you're feeling. You know how you were before, how you are now. And so the question is how, like, what can you do to get out of that to reclaim your health again? Um, I know that was more than one thing, but yeah, I would just definitely say it's more than an allergy, and it really can do a lot of damage.
So I actually have a follow-up question as well, because I know people watching this are going to say, okay, so you did the moisture reading, right? You went to Home Depot and got that. And then what were the steps that you took, just kind of sequential after that, for people that are looking at this? So if they do the same thing and find out they have a lot of moisture, what were your next few steps after that point?
I made sure, especially if you live in an apartment, to document every single thing. So when I found that I had high moisture in there, I even bought a humidity reader to see what the humidity was in the bathroom, in the shower. I recorded videos showing how I was turning it on, putting it against the wall, doing my narrations and things like that. I would email back and forth with the management of that apartment was in writing, and that very little was done in person. Now, of course, it's a little bit tricky whenever they come and they want to check to see if there really is mold, and their checking is not checking at all. It's just looking and saying, that's just mildew. We can cover that up for you to make it look better. And so it's making sure also that, you know, you step your foot down and you draw a line and say, nobody is touching this until I get this properly inspected and looked at. So those were kind of my steps after getting the moisture meter. But yeah, just being very firm. And if, you know, it's not like I was going to use it against the apartment or anything, but it's there just in case, and you have receipts for yourself. Um, to be able to get out of there, if that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Emily, do you have any other follow-up questions for her right now?
No, I think that that's what she just said is all very pertinent because especially the documentation part. That's one thing that Karen Ferris, an attorney here in Texas, always says is that you got to document. And unfortunately, a lot of the maintenance requests these days are through an online portal. And Karen was saying that, you know, apartment complexes will actually delete anything that you say when it comes to mold, but they'll keep like all the other, you know, repair requests, you know, like carpet needs, you know, we need new carpet, but they'll delete the other one. So if you are making maintenance requests through an online portal, it's always best to CC you or screenshot it, so that way you have that documentation if you ever need it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think everything she just said was spot on. Victoria, good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth and Emily. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I really think there's hope out there for people. So thank you guys so much for what y'all are doing.